We haven't talked about ETF flows and crazy buying. In the last 7 days alone, we've seen $1.7 billion flow into the Bitcoin ETFs. To give some perspective, it would take about 2 months to mine that amount of Bitcoin.
Apple is reportedly inking a deal with OpenAI, and Elon Musk is not a fan of it.
No, he's sort of criticizing, I think he called them like lazy in one of his posts, to say like, just why couldn't you just make your own?
People realize that they can make silly amounts of money by just launching a shitcoin and rug news. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Crypto Catch-Up. My name's Ted and I'm joined by the great man Pav Hundal. Pav, you got a bit of extra bling today? You got a nice gold bull chain? What's that about?
Well, dethroned you, mate.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Moving on. So we've got a big week ahead of us.
That's all I got.
No, you've done well this week to take the win. It was a pretty shameful win. But
for those people that don't care or don't know, we've recently introduced the Tapping Into Crypto tipping competition. The winner each week will be wearing this.
Yeah, until we get a WWE style belt.
Yeah, which has a Bitcoin that spins.
Yeah.
Pepe, we're not yet.
But Pav went the conservative route of buying USDT, Bitcoin, ETH. Pretty boring in my opinion, but he got the win. So
only lost $100 this week.
That's shameless win.
All right, well, call it what you want. You don't have it around your neck. That's all that matters to me.
But look, there is a lot of stuff to cover. We've just heard news of the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference, which we've been kind of anticipating pretty heavily.
Have we?
Well, I have.
You have been. I had it.
There have been some pretty key AI announcements in there, so we're going to cover that later on.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to cover off on some macro news, and then we're going to talk about some key catalysts for some altcoins and some key upgrades that, for some sort of sleeping giants potentially to keep an eye out for. So
some winners there.
Let's get kicked off with the thoughts on the market, Pav, starting with you.
Let's just jump up to the screen, and this is where we left off last week. So we were heading right into these prior highs, I believe, on the Tuesday, and we kind of talked about this is where we could stall. We really need to see the bulls push through and head up over the new all-time highs, or we'd kick back a little bit. So looks like we're seeing the latter. We have kicked back down as low as 68.5K. And the importance of this right now comes at a pretty pivotal moment. We have, looking at the economic calendar, we have inflation data as well as the next round of the federal funding rates. So the interest rates in the US. And with that, the more important pieces, we get the statements, we get the projections, we get to know what's going on in terms of what's the roadmap to lowered interest rates. Now, this is super important because Canada, the land of maple syrup, and Europe, the land of everything else, both announced rate cuts in the last 7 days. So the general tone globally is that things looks like they're getting easier. And that's good for crypto because that means just in general, risk on assets may see some capital flows as liquidity starts to build up back in the system. That's good. That's what we get during bull markets. When there's more liquidity in the system, we go higher. So long story short, you want to be watching Wednesday, Thursday this week for a bit of volatility, in my opinion. So, from where we are right now, there's always a chance that we could go higher or lower. But if I have to sort of put, a guess of where I think we go next, I do think we go lower. How low, I don't quite know. There is a very big, sneaky set of potential stop losses underneath, anywhere from 66 all the way down to 64.5K. So whether or not we get something that tight, that deep, time will tell, but I think it's pretty likely that we at least see 66, 66.2. So around like this sort of area here is where I'll be watching. And the big one here is altcoins. Like they could get absolutely decimated on a move like this, but it might be just a quick flash in a pan, especially if come time for the news to come out and then, they're talking about, okay, well, this is what the US is planning for their rate cuts or whatever. Like if there's any sort of language to say that there's some easing coming, the markets are going to absolutely love that. And some example of like, we talk about, I say the macro matters, you say sometimes it doesn't matter. This is a great graphic showing how we've been trading for, almost 3 months now sideways. Every one of these major inflection points have been very close to, if not exactly around key news releases. So CPI being the inflation data points, FOMC being the federal, the interest rate meetings that we're having. You can see the pivots higher and lower have all been around those dates. And what do you know? We've got the next one coming up tomorrow. So we'll see if this will set up the next sort of pivot move and we get that move lower. And then, if I'm a guessing man and they do come out and say that they're looking at potentially easing the conditions out there, maybe we start to see that pivot low come towards the back end of this week as well. So
okay, you've said a lot there, but to sum up, you think it's going lower, pending what happens this Wednesday in the US?
Likely, but again, I think overall it goes higher. So at the end of the day, this could be, analysis is only analysis to a certain degree. I think we get to the end of this week, we'll be sitting here next week. The chain will still be around my neck, most likely, but we'll know where we're going, I think. And, the sign of the times, we even have people like Senator Elizabeth Warren, not loved by crypto people out there in the world, but even senators are now sending open letters to the Federal Reserve saying, reduce rates, this is crazy. Yeah, we can't keep going like this. So the pressure's definitely mounting. And read into that what you will, but I think things look good long term. And I just also want to dive into ETF flows. I know we haven't talked about this in a while, but some crazy buying. So I think in the last 7 days alone, we've seen $1.7 billion US flow into the Bitcoin ETFs. To give some perspective, it would take about 2 months to mine that amount of Bitcoin. Yeah. So, we always talk about the supply shrinking and supply shock that we can all look forward to in a bull market. This is kind of what that looks like in a glimpse, right? Like imagine all of a sudden, if it's not just, I guess, these institutions and people that you could perceive it as smart money buying, what happens when everyone starts aping in? This is how the sort of supply shock scenario sort of starts. Okay, so explain to me why that we're getting these huge inflows. We've had the halving, so rewards, new Bitcoin entering circulation is less. Why are we still teetering around that 70K US mark, or if you're talking AUD, about 105K? It still requires, once you get to a certain level, for price to punch through. So if you look at those dates where the buying was quite high, so let's look at the 4th of July. We were sort of tracking higher, like we were just sort of down here at the 69K level, under 70K. So still, once we do get up to these 70K prior highs, we're not seeing buyers buy through. And I think a lot of that has got to do with just general sentiment still, like these underlying conditions. Like we talk about macro, the best way to think of it is it's the temperature gauge for how the economy feels, right? So if all of a sudden things are looking to the up in terms of things are going to get easier, I think that's when you see levels like this get punched. Yep. But until that gets confirmed, there's no one that's going to front run and spend more than they need to chuck Bitcoin into all-time highs until we have that sort of solid end news on where the economy is going. Okay. And that's not up to me. That's up to the market, right? Because if we were going to, you could say, well, we should have done it last week. So... Great analysis. I just want to point out there that I do think the macro matters. It's not that I just completely ignore it. You literally have a shirt that says macro don't matter. Well, I don't wear that anymore. But look, I know it matters, but sometimes it's just a bit dry, and we'd like to get into the juicy, important altcoin news that our listeners know and love. Mate, which I'm about to dive into. So you guys can wake up from your little snooze now, because I've got the exciting stuff. So I want to talk about you talked about there. Altcoins could get decimated coming up. We're looking at sort of altcoins over the last seven days, and there's a lot of red. There's a little bit of green speckled in there, but it's mainly red. So a lot of these guys are back at, how we sort of did have that bit of a rally like 2 weeks ago. Like they're almost back to their breakout points. Yeah, I think we actually talked about that last poddy. We said we wouldn't be surprised if they went back there. Exactly. Yeah, some of the key losers there were like some of the meme coins that did really well. I know Whiff, which I had in my demo portfolio, absolutely tanked. Yep. And what are the other big losers? Lido DAO, FET AI. A bit of a red week if you're looking at it as a whole. But look, I think there's more to be looked at here, because if you look at Total 3, which I know you like to bring up on a chart sometimes, I was looking at it early today. It's about 70% down from previous all-time high. Okay. So Total 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pav, it's all the market minus Bitcoin and Ethereum? Yep, correct. Yep. I think minus stablecoins too, I could be wrong. Minus stablecoins, yeah, that would make sense. We're still well off that all-time high. So we're not seeing the sort of like altcoin season that we have in the past after like Bitcoin's, reached all-time highs, which I think most would have expected. But there's a few things to look into here. Firstly, it's been a heavily Bitcoin-led narrative year in terms of, ETFs, and also the halving as well. That's thus far. One thing that's actually going against, some of the altcoins really seeing like strong performance, I think, is dilution, and that's going to be a real sort of key focal point for this cycle. So is say dilution? What are you referring to? So there's two things I'm referring to here. There's token unlocks, so tokens that are already out there. Like you might hold Arbitrum, and all of a sudden tomorrow they release
50 million more value in tokens, and it just all of a sudden dilutes the supply.
Yep.
Means the value of yours goes down because there's more tokens in supply. So there's almost like $200 million a day in token unlocks being released, which is diluting the supply of existing tokens. And then more than ever, we're seeing new tokens launch. So people realize that they can make silly amounts of money by just launching a shitcoin and rugging it. So we're seeing new tokens launch on Base, Solana. What are some of the other key ones? I guess still Ethereum. But Base and Solana seem to be sort of the hub for these new like meme coins or shit coins, whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
So I think we're at a point where we're like, okay, yes, altcoins, they do have a path here and they will see some strong performance, but it's not going to be like you just, throw a dart at a map and you land on one, it's going to do well, right? They're like, you got to be kind of selective with the narratives and with the individual coins you're actually heading into. So it's not going to be, if I'm in crypto, I'm going to succeed. Yes, we will have probably an altcoin season where things are looking a lot greener, but overall, I think it's not just a matter of like rising tide raises all ships.
I think you're wrong. I think a little bit of it is eventually in the market cycle, everything will be the rising tide lifts most ships, but there'll be some that don't just rise that high. There'll be some that just constantly say half sunken. So some of those old projects are just dinosaurs.
Well, that's what I say. I talk to people and they're like,
maybe Cardano.
Don't ignite the army. Yeah. I talk to some people, they're like, Bitcoin's at all-time high, but my portfolio is still down. I look at their portfolio and they've held on to coins from, last cycle that probably aren't going to do much this cycle. And they're like reluctant to sell at a loss. They're like, I'm just waiting for them to get in the green, then I'm going to sell. I'm like, you'd be better off selling them into like a Bitcoin or Ethereum that's probably going to maintain its value and increase more than them, or even find some strong altcoins in the narratives that are hot right now. But, I think you're right. I think overall, when things are looking more positive, everything will benefit from that.
But there's a certain phase of that. It's not the majority of the time. Like we've seen already, like Bitcoin's obviously stolen the show, but you've seen things like Solana be absolute rippers. And that's because, again, it's on theme. Narratives driven there. The network is seeing value there. So a whole ecosystem just thriving while everyone else is still on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So
have you seen that only 8 coins have outperformed against Bitcoin since the FTX downfall?
I don't know the exact ones. I'm going to guess is it Chainlink.
I would have to bring it up. I know one is Render.
Render, yeah.
Injective maybe.
Thinking Injective, probably Cass as well then.
Yeah, but it's got to have an all-time high before. So I think Cass entered
late last.
Yeah, so it has to be like a second time around cycle coin, because there are obviously coins that have launched like this cycle that have done bigger gains than Bitcoin, but we're talking about this is not their first rodeo. But in the bright side, altcoins have peaked exactly 546 days post-halving. So we're still like over a year away from
that adds up.
That happening. I think that's happening, sort of October 2025. So there's still plenty of room for them to, have their time in the sun.
Be patient.
But yeah, a lot of people are starting to get a bit concerned.
Yep.
What do we got? Well, I kind of wanted to take a bit of a different approach this time and look at some, I mentioned at the start of the show, we wanted to look at some altcoins that have some big upcoming catalysts, upgrades that could be key for the price movements.
Okay.
So I've actually taken this from a report from our friends at Collective Shift. Ben Simpson, he's been on a lot, so that they do some really good altcoin reports, and I'm going to highlight some of the key findings I found in one of them today. So first off, Polygon, the almost like the one that we haven't been talking about for 12 to 18 months. It's just been, sleeping away in the shadows. Do you hold any Pol? Sorry, do you hold any Matic?
No, I did at one stage, but it was like last cycle, and then it was like probably this back end here in 2021. But no, I haven't.
Yeah, so it's one that performed really well in the 2022 bear market and kind of outshone the rest of the market because
it was a front runner. It was like one of the first altcoins to start doing ridiculous moves.
Yeah, but despite it being a bear market, they were just landing like huge partnerships, which actually it performed pretty well. But since then, it just seems to be, having done nothing. It's been overtaken by the likes of Solana, Arbitrum, even Base now. People are moving to those more accessible chains. However, they've got Polygon 2.0 coming, and the Matic token will change to Pol.
Yep.
That's meant to happen towards the end of this year. And so I think they'll get a bit of time in the spotlight, which will be good for a bit of a narrative around Polygon.
We've seen them do a successful rebrand in the past. I wonder if Lightning can strike twice. They used to be called
Matic Network.
Just Matic Network, and then went to Polygon.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know I sold my Polygon.
You did?
Just because like I didn't see any existing narrative that was going to play out in sort of the next 6 to 12 months. And I knew the Polygon sort of 2.0 was coming, but I was like, you know what? It's just doing nothing for me.
Yep.
And so I consolidated into some of the majors on that one. Next is Chainlink. So Chainlink, which we touched on a lot last year when they were doing partnerships with the likes of ANZ, JP Morgan, they've got this cross-chain interoperability protocol.
Mouthful, isn't it?
It is a mouthful, which is called CCIP.
Yep.
So that's meant to be live in full very soon. Obviously, they've done testing with those institutions that I just mentioned, but Chainlink has kind of expanded outside of just that Oracle sort of sector. It's now really in the what would you call it, real world asset sector with the likes of these massive partnerships. And with that going live in full, we might see more partnerships. And in order to sort of leverage this CCIP protocol, you do need to hold the chain token. So that's just another tokenomics catalyst there for Chainlink.
Yeah. Because I think you can stake it now, which you never used to be able to.
Yeah.
So another one. Therell be some locked up.
Yeah, I think Link will be one of the key RWA tokens, despite just kind of entering that sector recently.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we got Solana. Solana, one we always like to talk about. Been a bit quiet lately, but that's okay because it's kind of been ticking away. It's got strong activity in terms of like meme coins. Like, did you hear about that guy who burned himself?
Oh, yeah, mental.
Yeah,
that's where we are. Like, that's kind of gross.
That I was like, oh god, this is getting too
for
crazy.
those people that didn't hear, is essentially a Solana dev or even just like an influencer or something.
He was just the founder of some shitcoin.
So he basically was a punter, and it was a truth or dare token. I think someone dared him to light himself on fire, and he followed through. And then he sent a video of him being him in the hospital bed with burns all over him.
Pretty nasty, burns to his face and stuff. And I think the token actually did all right, which is a bit of a shame because we don't really want to encourage that. But there was more people doing like ridiculous dares and stuff like that. So I don't know. That for me was like, okay, they were taking this a step too far. But nonetheless, Solana, a lot of activity when it comes to meme coins, shit coins, you name it. But they've come under fire recent times for having downtime. So when the network just goes down, you can't use it, which is a pretty key issue. But they've got the Fire Dancer upgrade happening next year, which is meant to sort of rid of all those issues they've been having. And they've also got Franking Dancer, which is meant to release later this year, which is kind of like a lighter version of that Fire Dancer upgrade. So it's going to make it they say it's going to make it the most performative network. They say it already is the most performative, but this will make it even more so.
Yeah, and big up there is like it's actually been spearheaded by the Jump Group. So Jump Trading and founded Jump Crypto, and they're essentially a multi-decade like TradFi outfit that specializes in like algorithmic trading and high-frequency trading. So you got the best of the TradFi world leading into the crypto world. So this is not something that someone's just having a crack and making a network upgrade. This is
absolutely. Yeah, so Solana's got some big things coming. And then lastly, Illuvium, the game, they're a Sydney-based company. They've been working on their game for about 3.5 years now, and there's been a lot of anticipation for this game. And I know like the Illuvium coin pumped in like the last cycle, but then since then we've just been waiting around for this release. Like they've had some little teasers out. But the game, they're meant to release 3 games in the next sort of 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's going to be huge. And I think that's kind of going to be a make or break sort of catalyst for the crypto gaming sector over the next 6 to 12 months, because it's the first sort of like real legitimate game that might get, because we had actually Infinity, but that was,
That was still for the times, right? Like,
yeah.
It's really appropriate.
But I think this kind of aligns in sort of the games you're seeing made by, Rockstar and GTA and also COD. It actually looks like a well-made, high-functioning game. So I think if this is successful, this could kickstart a little bit of a rally in the game fi sector. But, it could also go the other way if, the game turns out to be riddled with issues and things like that. So
it's definitely ambitious. I don't know what they'll do at launch. I haven't been following it that much, but when I did do a deep dive into it, it's like you have multiple games that all overlap with each other, and this is where blockchain technology is really shining. It's kind of like, you know, let's say you've got these 3 games here. They got Arena, Overworld, Zero. I believe in Overworld, you go and you do some mining, exploration, get rewarded things that you then go and use as resources in the other games. And then you just create this like sort of self-sustaining environment between games. Like it's a bit, I don't know, we've never really seen that before. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then Arena looks like it's like a player versus player sort of battlefield game.
And Zero's like your city builder, classic, like Clash of Clans and stuff. So
yeah, so it's pretty diverse, and it's good that they've spent this much time and they didn't rush into launching it, because otherwise that could have really hindered sort of the success of the game as a whole.
And let's be real too, like with crypto, like you need players, and to get players you need adoption, and for there to be adoption, people need to see their bank underwater. They need to be in profit at least, so they're like transacting and active on the network, because all these things do require network active users. So
but like a game is something that you, like a good game that people play consistently and you know, spend time on and build a bit of a community around. Like you can't just build that overnight. It takes time. Not. So the fact that they've spent 3.5 years doing that is a positive sign for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, keen has been. On the adoption piece, I actually wanted to shout out just a new movement that we've been seeing lately with the infrastructure space. So I don't know if you saw the Coinbase announcement a few days ago, the new wallet system that they have. So they're basically making these smart wallets, and what they are, like the traditional wallet required to have a private key, can be a bit of a hard point for new people to get into the space. But we're basically introducing or ushering a new era where with smart wallet technology, basically creating a Web3 account will be as easy as creating any account that you're normally used to. So instead of having to remember a phrase, like 12 phrases and storing that, you can just use some other smarts within the contract technology that sort of looks at your device ID. It uses things like 2FA, links to your email. It's able to factor you a smart web wallet. And that's kind of like I think it's one of the most exciting things that I'm seeing, because I know like the one thing that I don't like about crypto is the UI, the user experience. It's pretty awful.
Accessing on chain is just terrible.
Yeah, so I think that it's going to be a bit of a space race to see who is the easiest player to, you know, be able to access Web3 grade activity with. And I think Coinbase is right now at the moment leading the way. It's only just starting, so I haven't really had a chance to play with it or to know what's coming on their roadmap. But another one that's recently popped up is Fuse Wallet. So again, using the Solana ecosystem to be able to create these smart wallets. So, you know, it basically should just improve accessibility across the board. And there's just no, like, it even fixes things around gas fees. So it's kind of just, instead of you having, as a user, having to confirm, yes, I want to do this transaction, spend this much gas, it'll sort of batch and bundle things and do it away from the user experience. Which I think is a big piece. It's pretty jarring to see that massive pop-up every time for the average person. So, look, I'm excited by this just because I think it sort of sets us up for the next wave of adoption. Like we've seen the ETFs on the Bitcoin front. I think for Web3 and altcoins and, you know, these projects like gaming, like this is kind of the future. It needs to be some sort of better experience.
And it's good that there's like multiple players in this race as well. Like obviously you got Coinbase, who just kind of have a bit of a monopoly in the US when it comes to sort of exchange operations. But the fact that Solana is also in this race, like, means like innovation will always prosper in this case.
Yeah, it's great. And it's mainly Fuse Wallet, which is made by, I forget their name now. It's Squad Protocol. So they've been around for quite some time, recently got some more funding as well. So it looks like these guys hopefully have a good handle on what they're doing. But I'm excited. I think there's a initial alpha or testing phase right now for iOS users. But I'd expect this again with all the other catalysts that come at it probably towards the end of this year, maybe next year. A lot of these projects start to go live, and we really start to see the Web3 world start to boom. I think this will be a big piece this cycle.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I'm excited to use it.
Very, very tidy.
Cool. Now, what we wanted to touch on next was the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. This has just happened. So, like, I was kind of scrambling to get notes for this story. So, bear with me if I'm, a bit scattered with this story, but from what I'm hearing, Apple is reportedly inking a deal with OpenAI, and they've also launched what is called Apple Intelligence. Basically, there's not too much to read in here. It's kind of doing similar things to what you already get with ChatGPT, where it helps you with sort of organization, writing, voice to text, that sort of thing. But the fact that Apple, it's a good name, Apple Intelligence, right?
It's not bad.
But the fact that they're diving into this space is good. So we saw this as a catalyst for the sort of the AI sector in crypto. Haven't seen too much movement thus far, but it's still pretty early days. Maybe there was, it was underwhelming compared to what people were expecting.
Yep.
But yeah, they're reportedly inking this deal with OpenAI, and Elon Musk is not a fan of it.
No, he's sort of criticizing the fact that I think he called him like lazy in one of his posts to say like, just why couldn't you just make your own?
I kind of agree with him on that regard, but he's tweeted here, if Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my companies. This is an unacceptable security violation.
So he's basically talking to the fact that an Apple to date is probably one of the more, if not the most secure mobile device out there. So basically now plugging into a third party like OpenAI, it gives them all of your information.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of concerns around how AI uses information, whether it's secure, whether it's, doing nasty stuff with your info and what you feed it. But you got to also think that Elon might consider it a competitor, given he's launched, is it Grok, his AI chatbot thing?
Yep.
So he might be using that as a bit of a scare tactic, but who knows? All I know is that the tech race at the moment is exciting, and Elon Musk definitely makes it more exciting.
He does. He adds a bit of color. It's great.
Yeah.
Nice little meme here from him.
How intelligence works. Yeah, okay. We'll put the meme in the show notes for the people that are listening on Spotify, because Elon's posting some great stuff.
Yeah. Look, there's been a bit of a long episode, so I think we should wrap it up for everyone. They're getting bored, Ted.
Yep.
Let's go straight to the tipping comp. So, just to summarize, I finished up this week 9,900 USDT, Bitcoin, and ETH. I'm going to take a bit more of a riskier move this week. Might not like it because we could maybe still go down for another week. I don't quite know. Unfortunately, no crystal ball. But I'm going to go for Bitcoin stacks just because I have been seeing some nice strength in that particular one. And I'm going to go for Pepe too, just because we have seen that first initial move. I'm kind of expecting like meme coins to have their next big run. I'm wondering if Pepe sort of leads the way again. Bit of a speculatory one on that one, but Bitcoin and stacks definitely for me. How about you?
Yep. I kind of rushed this for next week. Or I'll touch on what I did last week. So didn't have a great week. Ended at 9,500. So OM, which is Mantra, was one of the best performers, but unfortunately Whiff
absolutely ran.
Whiff was one of the worst performers, so kind of eliminated all my gains there. But this week I'm heading off the back of the Apple Developer Conference news with Render and AIOZ as my AI picks. And then lastly, I'm going to go with Whiff again because it's down 18% and the hat always stays on, as we like to say. So
the hat stays on.
That might come back to burn me, but look, that's the game we play.
That's crypto, baby.
And we'll see who's wearing the gold chain next week.
I get a good feeling it's going to be me.
Let's see about that, Pav. Let's see about that. Also, guys, before we leave, we're going to be doing some altcoin deep dives, so some shorter episodes, kind of like bonus episodes. They'll be probably 3 to 5 minutes.
We'll try to keep it short just so it's punchy.
Yeah.
It's going to be mainly for the YouTubes, and I think maybe some of the socials as well. I call it YouTubes.
YouTube's just such a boomer.
Oh, my God. That's bad. I have to go sit in the corner and think about what I've done.
Yeah.
But it's just a way that we're thinking maybe we could provide a bit more value leading into, I guess, the altcoin run that we sort of foresee coming. You want to be, I guess, as informed as you can be about your decisions.
Because we don't get really enough time to do super deep dives on the podcast into altcoins. So that's an opportunity for you guys to learn a bit more about some of the tokens we're talking about, some new launches and things like that. So make sure you check them out. Subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to our Spotify, whatever you get your podcasts on. And we'll catch you next week.
See you guys.